So, welcome to a very special series as brought to you by the Learn It channel. This is such an exciting tutorial series that we have in store for you, teaching someone from the ground up and taking them all the way to being able to use their own CNC equipment at their shop right now. So, without further ado, we'd like to introduce Dan the Man. Dan the Man, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, why you're interested in learning Fusion 360?
Yeah, sure, Ty. Well, you know what? I'm a welder fabricator. That's my trade. So I'm used to looking at drawings all the time and occasionally making them up. And I want to learn something that's a little more than a napkin drawing. I can see that the future seems to be in AutoCAD and 3D modeling. So I've been interested in learning this program, and I wanted to have a structured program that I could follow because I find that learning a computer program on my own, I just skim over and learn the parts that are interesting to me right at the moment. But I find that when I do that, there's so many holes in my knowledge that I don't think it's really a good way to learn. So I'm excited to learn Fusion 360 in a little more of uh, I guess, a more formal setting, I guess, a more structured setting, I guess. That's the word I want.
Excellent, excellent. So, just to confirm, what is your level of knowledge with Fusion 360 right now?
I've never used it before. I don't
Yes.
know anything about it.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so this is going to be fun. So, for everyone out there that wants to learn Fusion 360 and is in the same boat as our friend Dan here, well, this tutorial series is going to be for you. So, again, we're taking Dan without any knowledge of Fusion 360. We're going to show them the ropes. We're going to take them through the process of learning how to use this amazing software. And if this is something that you're excited about, please comment below. Please like, please subscribe so that you can stay tuned for future tutorials as well. So Dan, just before we get started as well, knowing your situation, knowing your work right now, you're not using any uh, Fusion 360 or CAD software for your work, but tell us about the end goal that we have for you yourself with your particular CNC machine at your current employment.
Yeah, well, right now we have a CNC plasma cutter, and they do have some kind of a AutoCAD software. I don't even recall what it is. It looks pretty ancient. I've had some experience in years past with some drawing programs. I know a little bit, but not very much at all. And basically we just cut out base plates for columns and posts, and so we're talking mostly two-dimensional stuff. So I want to learn to be able to cut and draw complex shapes so that I can build more complex pieces.
Excellent. And obviously doing so faster and more efficiently, more accurately, and more confidently that you're not going to scrap, a raw stock and material along the way, right?
Oh yeah, material is very expensive, and you start cutting up a 3/4 inch piece of steel that can run into thousands of dollars if you're not doing it right.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're super happy that you've wanted to do this, Stan, and thank you again. So without further ado, let's get into it.
All right.
So, and please take some notes along the way too, not only Dan, but also those that are tuning in. It's good to have a little notepad beside you so that you can take some good references. But again, that's the good thing about YouTube is if you have to go back in time, then you can do that as well. So let's start of first of all talking about file maintenance. It's one thing that skimmed over with a lot of Fusion 360 users or a lot of computer software users in general is file maintenance. So we can see right off the bat on the top of our screen here, we have untitled. That means that the current file that we have is not saved. And it's actually called a project in Fusion 360. So the best thing is to save it. But where do we save it? Well, that's where we go up here to the very top left to our little grid pattern. And this is called our data panel. So Dan, why don't you click on the data panel up there?
Okay.
Perfect. And as we see here, we've got all projects at the top. We can create a new project if we'd like. And then we have a host of different, these are equal to file folders. From the top all the way down, we have my recent data, my editable documents, admin, default project, things like this. But why don't you then just select all projects as a drop down folder? There we go.
Okay.
And go to all project is selected right now. Okay, that's even better. Perfect. So just for everyone's sake as well, if you've joined certain teams, you'll see joined by me, pinned, owned by me, shared by me, all this good information right there. We won't use that for our current project or for this series of tutorials, but this is great. Okay, so why don't we create a new project then? And this is going to be for your sake. Let's think about a project title. So go ahead and click on that.
Okay.
Great. And let's just call this, well, why don't you call it something like Learning Fusion 360.
Okay.
And everyone, this is in real time. We're not going to fast forward or do anything like that. What we see on the screen is what we're going to post. So hopefully you'll be able to learn along with Dan at the same time and the Learn It channel. Excellent. So there you go. You can press enter. Now, what you can look at with our project is the absolute main project. So if you are working on a project at work eventually, this would be the root directory, you might be able to say. And you can see as you hover over that little window, you'll see a pin to the very far right. Right there. So you can pin this. Say sometimes you might have hundreds of projects. Well, you'll keep some that are archived. You'll pin some. It will just put it to the top of all of your different projects. You don't need to pin it right now, but that's just showing that we can. Okay, so double click on your Learning Fusion 360 project. And within here, you'll have now what are subfolders. So you can click on the top, you'll see new folder. Perfect. And we'll just call this day one.
All right.
Perfect. Okay. So just to confirm with everyone at home, Dan is using the personal version of Fusion 360. So there's some limitations with this. Make sure that if you download the personal version from Autodesk website, that you follow the directions, follow the instructions there well, and the limitations that you know them well. Um, Dan, just to confirm with you, so you're not actually using this for work because you don't know how to use it, but
That's right.
event, eventually, when you do get to know it, and if it works for your situation, this is something you've mentioned before that you'd probably be interested in purchasing a subscription at some point.
Right.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. So anyone out there who is interested in purchasing a subscription, please look at the description below in this YouTube video. You'll save a chunk of change if you use a referral code. It would really help us keep making these videos. So anyways, great. So Dan, right now with your project that's untitled, if you save it, it will save it under our Learning Fusion 360 project. It won't save it in day one. So this is the thing. Whatever you see on the left hand column here in your data panel is where your file will be saved. And sometimes what ones will do is they'll save 100 different files. They'll all go to the admin. And actually we can go back to the admin or to all projects. Just click on that home icon there, Dan. What many Fusion users do is they just save, and it will store it all under our default project or our admin project. And it's a disaster because there's just files galore. So uh, learning proper file maintenance is very, very important for Fusion. So again, click on our Learning Fusion 360 project. Excellent. And then click day one, double click day one. Should be able to. Perfect. And now you can see the directory that we're in is right there. Learning Fusion 360 day one. Now let's save our project. And you can do that by clicking on our save icon. Awesome. And why don't we call this, what would you like to call it, Dan? It's just going to be our first day learning. We're going to learn some simple geometry and drawing. So just think of a name that corresponds to what you'd like to do. I would say,
Simple geometry.
there you go, simple geometry. Let's do it. Beautiful. And as we save it, there we have it on our data panel or in our data panel. Our file is right there. So now here's just something that seems basic for everyone, but let's do it anyways. Dan, let's go back to your home folder.
Okay.
And this is how Fusion will load up. Now, can you find the file that you just saved?
Okay, I'm going to go to Learning Fusion 360, day one,
There it
simple
is.
geometry.
Amazing. So that's how easy. You imagine if we saved, hundreds of files in the same root directory or root project. Oh, it becomes very hard to find our projects. So now you get
Yeah.
the point. I think it's easy at this point. Good. Okay. So now we can close our data panel, which is that X on the top, or we hide our data panel. Okay, great. So we're not going to talk too much about touring the interface. If you are interested in doing that, I'll post a link to one of the tutorials that we've made previously on touring the interface up at the top right of your screen. But for Dan's sake, we're not going to kill him with, with touring the interface too much right here. But what we are going to talk about are some of the basics. Now, on the very top of the screen, we have what is called our application bar. So this is the very top. This hosts all sorts of different things. We can open the data panel. We can open files. We can save. We can undo. We can redo. We'll have all of our different projects up here, and we have our preferences over on the top right. Now, right after that, we have something called our toolbar. So this is what you will use 99% of the time, and I'll just highlight it right there. With our toolbar, right now we are in something called our design workspace. So Dan, can you click on the design workspace there?
All right.
Now, what are some other things that you see?
Generative design, render, animation, simulation, manufacture, and drawing.
Very good. So with the personal version, you can see that generative design is grayed out. We can't use it. Simulation, we can't use it. There's limitations with each of these, but for this whole tutorial series, we're going to be talking about design and manufacture. So let's learn design first and then head on over to manufacture, probably at, I don't know, day 4 or 5. We'll see what the future brings.
Mhm.
Okay, great, Dan. So that's awesome. Now, one other thing that we're going to focus on is right now. So you can just click on the screen anywhere. There we go. So we're in what's called Solid Tab. And as you're under Solid Tab, you have here what's called our toolbar. And it has a bunch of different tools. So picture, sections of your shop where you'll have, a section of tools in one area and then a section of tools in another area. Well, that's exactly what we're seeing. We've got solid tools. Now click on the next tab, which is surface.
Okay.
And there we go. So what do you see? We've got a bunch of new tools, right?
Okay.
And click on mesh. Oh, there we go. And
Different
sheet.
tools.
That's right. Different tools, sheet metal. Great. Plastic and finally utility. So generally, again, just keeping this in our mind that each of those tabs is like a different toolbox or an area of our shop where they have specific tools. So let's go back to solid. Now, the next thing you'll notice in our toolbar are these icons. So you'll have a bunch of different icons here, and those are actually shortcuts. If we wanted to explore all of the tools in our toolbox, you could say everything is under these drop-down menus. So do you want to click on that create menu? Great. And you can see, let's just compare here. We have sketch and sketch, right? We've got extrude and we've got extrude. So those are just shortcuts at the top, but all of the tools can be found by creating or clicking on that drop down menu. So the very first thing that we want to do is we want to create, and Dan, have you ever heard of a 1, 2, 3 block? Have you ever used those at work before?
Um, I'm not sure.
Okay,
I
no
think I
worries.
might know what it is, but I'm not sure. Go ahead and explain it to me.
Okay, sounds good. So in the manufacturing industry, a 1, 2, 3 block is a block that's precision ground. It's 1 inch by 2 inches by
Oh
three
yeah.
inches, and
Hmm.
it's so very easy to use. And they've got hundreds of different styles, holes in them, sometimes solid and everything. So what we're going to do is we're going to first of all learn the absolute basic way to create one, and then we will learn, in my opinion, the better way of creating one. So if we look at all of our different options under create, what comes to your mind, Dan? If you can picture that 1, 2, 3 block, look at all of our different tools right here and tell me which one would you pick in order to create a block type part or a one,
Uh,
two, three. No guess
I'm
is wrong. No guess is wrong. Go
okay.
ahead.
I'm just going to say maybe box.
You've got it. Perfect. That's great. So click on box. That's right. Actually, and before you do that, just press escape, Dan, on
Uh,
your keyboard. Yeah.
oh, okay. Uh,
Oh, do you know what? It's not
yeah.
letting you now.
Okay. Escape.
Okay.
There we
Okay.
go.
Perfect. Okay. Go back to create your drop
Okay.
down menu though, and just hover over box. And this is the cool thing about Fusion is it tells you a description of what that will actually do. So what does it say there beside box in our
Says
new?
create a solid box. Select the plane, draw a rectangle, then specify the height of the box.
Very easy. So this is the most simple primitive shape. Let's click on it. Let's click on box there. Yep. Okay, so the very first thing that you do is if you just hover your mouse, just hold it just for a second. Okay, do you see what it's telling you is it's giving you information below. It says select a plane or planar face. So let's talk about this. This is fundamental to 3D modeling, and part of our first day knowledge is we have three orange tan squares right now. Can you hover your mouse over each of them, please, Dan? Yeah, that's right. And as you do, what do you notice about the grid? What happens?
It changes direction.
That's right. Excellent. So these are called planes, and those little squares, they actually go infinite into an infinite direction. They have no limitations. They go infinitely in whatever direction that you see. So even though the grid only goes to here, it's actually going for towards infinity. So, but we need to understand what are these planes? What do they represent, and which one do we pick? So this is where we look at our lines, our colored lines. So what kind of colored lines do you see right now, Dan?
Well, we see blue, we see green, we see red.
Perfect. So if we want to know what those actually correspond to, we look up here to our view cube. And what do we see? What is the blue line? It actually has an address.
Looks like, is that front?
Front, yeah. So look at the blue line, and then you'll see a letter that's connected to the blue line.
That's the Z or
That's
Z.
the Z, Z. Well, let's use Z. Yeah, we're both
Okay.
from Canada. That's okay. Sounds good. Okay, and then we've got what color is the red line?
The
Or I'm
red
sorry,
line is
what address is the red line? What axis is it?
that's the X axis.
That's right. So if we want to see what the green line is, just hit escape on your keyboard one more time just to exit out of our and go up to our view cube up here and click on it with your mouse. and just rotate it. And this is called orbiting. And this is, we'll be able to actually see what this does in the future. But what do you see? What is the
Okay. So the green line apparently is the y-axis.
very good. So for anyone else that is learning, I know that Dan, you understand this, but anyone that's learning for the first time, so 3D modeling is we work in 3 dimensions, and those dimensions have names to them. So we call it the X, Y, Z uh, axes. So one axis, 2 axes. That's the plural. Very good. Okay, so now you know what each of those lines represent, each of those axes. Let's go back to our box command. And to show you how easy it is for the box command, Dan, just right click anywhere on your screen, anywhere on the canvas. So just down here somewhere.
Oh, right click. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
right click. And look at the very top. What do you see there? A top selection.
Repeat box.
There you go. So the last command, if you ever want to quickly get to it, just right click and go to the very top. That's it. Repeat box. Okay, so now before we create our box, actually, we need to talk about the planes. So hover over this plane right here, Dan. Now, what axes is that plane cutting through? What colors is it cutting through?
Well, it looks like it's cutting through both the red and the green. So am I right?
Excellent. You've got it. Spot on. Very good. So this is called our XY plane, our XY plane. So it cuts through both of those lines. Whatever lines it cuts through, that's what we call that particular plane. So here's a question for you. If you wanted to select the XZ plane, which one would you pick?
The XZ plane would be this one,
Oh, brilliant. Now, what about the YZ plane?
be this one.
Amazing. That's it. Very, very, very good. So now we have to ask our question, well, okay, what plane do we actually start off on? So for the basics right now, we're going to just select our XY plane. Just hover over the XY plane. And for terminology's sake as well, think about our alphabet. Our alphabet, we say X, Y, Z or X, Y, Z. So we always follow that same naming convention when we talk about planes. We wouldn't say our ZX plane or our YX plane because that's not alphabetical or not in the alphabetical order. So we'd always say XY plane, XZ, YZ or YZ plane. Um, okay, so why do we pick in this instance our XY plane? Well, picture it as being like the surface of your desk in front of you. And picture, that we're going to be kids once again, and we're playing with Play-Doh or something like that. We're building a card mansion or something like that. Well, we build it on the surface of our desk. And if our desk is our XY plane, well, that's what we're going to build our 1, 2, 3 block off of. So click our XY plane. And everything should orient. Oh, it doesn't orient in this instance. That's okay. But what does the dialog tell you under your mouse cursor?
It says place first corner.
Very good. Very, very, very good. So we've got our 2 axes right here. And in the center, where those intersect, what do you see?
It looks like a circle.
That's right. That's your origin where both of those axes intersect. So why don't we just place our first corner there? So you can click and specify the size of the rectangle. So you can move it off to the side. Yeah, move it off. And what do you see here now?
I see numbers growing in millimeters.
Oh, and everyone who loves metric out there in the YouTube world is going to be very happy that Dan is using millimeters. So this is great. So what we want to do is we want to specify the size of our block. And I believe, why don't we call this? Let's see here. Let's just start off with any type of dimensions. Let's just call this first dimension 10 millimeters, Dan.
Okay.
Now to get to our other dimension, you actually press tab.
Sorry, press what?
tab on your keyboard.
Oh, tab.
Tab, yeah,
Okay.
right above
Uh,
caps lock there.
okay.
And you see it switches to the other dimension. So here, why don't we just type, I don't know, 50 millimeters? There we go. Now, when you press enter, what does it do?
It draws a rectangular box.
Great. Awesome. So actually, it didn't really matter what dimensions we put in there because if we look at our dialog window to the top right, what do you see here?
Well, it's got the length and width, and it put in a height of 5 millimeters.
That's right. So just a generic height, just a default height that it brings up, but we could always change our length and width and height. Or we could also drag these arrows that you see that are connected to our box. Now, for you as being a machinist and somebody that's been in the industry for a while, you know very well that we want accuracy, right? So just try and grab the arrows here, grab that Z
Okay.
axis arrow and move it up and see what happens. Yeah, there we go. So it jumps in 5 mil increments, right?
Yeah.
So, sometimes we hit it spot on, but if we have to work with decimals, well, obviously we don't want to use the arrow. So we can just do everything under the box, window dialog box over here. So why don't we make in metric a 1, 2, 3 block is actually 25 millimeters by 50 millimeters by 75 millimeters. So Dan, why don't you do that? Why don't you change the length, width, and height to 25, 50, 75?
Okay.
And you
Uh,
just click on each of them. That's it. Perfect.
25, 50, and 75.
You've got it.
Well, the 50 is already there. So, where's my decimal?
Amazing. That's it.
Okay. And
So,
click OK.
so some ask the question here, well, how do I know which one is the length and how do I know which one is the width? Now, what would you think, Dan? Does it matter in this instance? What do you think?
Well, if it's just a standalone box, I don't think it really matters. If you have to connect it to something else where the orientation is important, well, then you just change the dimensions to suit your purpose, I guess.
Dan, I'm loving teaching you because you understand the concept here. It's all relative, right? Ones sometimes get all bent out of shape. Well, how come the length, somebody does length this way and somebody does width that way? Well, it doesn't matter. It's all based on context and things are relative. So you've done it perfect. Look at the screen. We've got ourselves a 1, 2, 3 block or our metric counterpart here. So that's great. Very, very good. So one other thing before we press on is let's just click on our operation. Click the drop down menu there.
Right here.
Yes, perfect. And you can see that there's various operations that we can select. We've got join. So if you have another object, which we'll get into all this as well, you can cut through them, you can intersect two bodies. The ones that we're going to think about right now or pay attention to are the new body and new component. This is a little bit, we're going to save this for a future day. But for the sake of this tutorial, let's just create a new body. So you've already got it selected there. Excellent. And go OK. So
Okay.
we can do a nice round of applause right now. This is amazing. Dan, you have created your first part in Fusion 360. What is the level of difficulty that you would say that so far? Is it pretty easy?
From 1 to 10, it's like
Yes.
a 1 or a 2.
Okay, perfect. So what we're going to do is just for fun, go down to this is called your timeline. This is going to have every single thing that you've done. And what can you see right now? What's the little icon there in our timeline? If you just hover over it.
It looks like a box. It says
Hey, box primitive. That's right. So exactly what you've created here is what we see in our timeline. So can you right click that box with your mouse? Yeah.
right click. Okay.
And delete.
Delete.
Delete it. Done,
Gone.
Zolans. Done. Okay, so Dan, show us again from your knowledge. Can you create a 25, 70, 50, 75 mil box for us? So 1, 2, 3 blocks in metric.
Why? Okay. Place first corner.
And you can put the dimensions in there too if you'd like. Oh, so you
Okay.
didn't. That's okay. And it just brings up the box. Perfect.
Okay.
So here, actually, before you proceed, tab is going to be our best friend in Fusion 360. So click your length as the first one, and before you press enter,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, change our length to whatever it's supposed to be. Okay, before you do anything,
Yeah.
press tab. Yeah, see how it goes to the next object, the next dimension there? That will
Okay.
just save you from having to double click and now you can just type in 50. Perfect. And same thing if you needed to adjust the height, press tab. There we go. Yeah. And you've already got 25. Now you can press enter. Amazing. You've got it. Easy, easy. Very, very, very good. Okay. So that is the main way that we make what's called a primitive shape. But how often do we actually work with primitive shapes? Very seldom. So what we're going to do is learn how to sketch this. So can you delete that in our timeline again, Dan?
Okay.
Amazing. So remember the pattern for Fusion is just like English. We read English from top to bottom, from left to right. Here
Mm-hmm.
we have our create menu. Once we've created something, we can modify it. And then once we've modified it, we can assemble. And then we've got these other selections over here. So every single time that we want to create something, they'll always be under this drop down menu right there. So if you click on create, we're going to find the sketch.
Create
There.
sketch.
So before you hit click, you'll also notice that it is actually a shortcut already. How do we know what is a shortcut and what isn't? Well, we can see them first of all up here. But look at as you're hovering over sketch, you see there's 3 dots right there, 3 dots to the side.
Oh, yeah.
So just click on those 3 dots. It's a little difficult to do, but yeah, click on them. And what do you see?
Pin to toolbar, pin to shortcuts, change keyboard shortcut.
Okay, so right now it's pin to toolbar. Just uncheck pin to toolbar. And look at now it's gone on the top. So
Ah,
create sketch. So let's pin to toolbar. These are things that we use often. Let's picture tools that we use often in the top shelf of our toolbox. Good. And you can see now it is placed to the right side of our other shortcuts. So just click off to the side there, Dan. Yeah, right where you are.
oh, right here.
Yeah. And yeah, just click there. And you can drag this. Let's drag it back to the very start because that's generally where it's placed.
Oh, where'd it go?
Oh, now it's gonzo beans. That's okay. Okay, go back to create. I think you just went too far and it disappeared. So hover over. Yeah, you've got it. Click there, pin to toolbar. There you go. Just go a little slower and you'll see. Oh, maybe you didn't click it enough. One more time. There you go.
There we
There you
go.
go. Perfect. Oh, too far, too far.
Too far
Ah, that's
again.
why. Okay. It shows up with a little hourglass. Yeah, go back to create, pin to toolbar. See, and this is the benefit of using someone or, teaching someone that's never used Fusion before. Okay, there you go. See that little arrow? Oh, hold on before you release. Go a little to the right, a little to the right. Ah, you see that black?
Yeah.
That's okay. Now it's going to place it there. If you go too far, it disappears. Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay, so now we selected create sketch and we're presented with the same question. Well, what plane do we want to start off with? And here we can select our XY plane. Amazing. Very good. So even though we've selected our X, Y plane, um, regardless of the plane that we selected, our sketch mode will always have Y axis and X axis, just like a Cartesian plane back in the days of learning math. It doesn't matter what plane we've previously selected, this will always be Y and X. This refers to just our drawing coordinates. It doesn't refer to our 3D object, it's just talking about our drawing. So whenever we draw in Fusion 360, it's like going back into math, our origin, we would reference this as 0, comma 0. And then any points over here, let's say we pick a point off to the side here. Well, this is going to be 50, comma, and the 50 refers to our X axis, or our X axis, our X coordinate, and the next one refers to our Y coordinate. So we can see it lines up with 50 there and our 50 over here. So if this is too confusing, don't worry. We're not even going to, just if anyone remembers that in math, our coordinate system is just exactly what we see on the screen right here. So what we want to do is we want to picture looking at our 1, 2, 3 block from a bird's eye view. So remember, this is our desk surface now, and we're looking from a bird's eye view. So we want to create our rectangle that is 75 mils by 50 mils. So how do we do it? Well, now that you've clicked on create a sketch, we have a new tab up here called sketch and a host of tools. So again, we've got create, modify, constraints, so on and so forth. So let's click on the create drop-down menu, Dan. And what shape would you like to pick in order to create the bird's eye view of our 1, 2, 3 block?
I'm going to say rectangle.
You've got it. And what do we have here? We've got different options. So what do you see?
2-point rectangle, 3-point rectangle, center rectangle.
Very good. What do you see beside 2-point rectangle?
It looks like an R.
It's an R. So that's the shortcut. Whenever we see uh, a character or anything like that, a letter beside our tool, well, that's the shortcut. So just for the sake, we can see this on the screen right now that it's supposed to be an R. So just click off on your canvas down here, Dan, and press R on your keyboard. And you'll slowly memorize all of these different. So R, rectangle, pretty easy, eh?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so off to the side here, we see our dialog window. And you can actually select any of those 3 rectangles that we just saw previously. So which one do you think you would like to pick to create that rectangle?
Well, I'm thinking like a 2-point rectangle.
Let's do it. So where do you place your first corner? If you just hover your mouse, it tells us what to do there. Yeah, awesome. So we're going to click there and then move off up here to the top right, and you'll see dimensions again. So here we actually have to specify a dimension. So what would you specify our first dimension to be?
Um, let's
And
go with
this,
length.
perfect.
So let's go 75.
Awesome. And remember, go press tab to go to your next dimension. And it's
Okay.
already at 50. So awesome. Once you are, oh, you can just type it in now. Yeah, 50 since you moved the mouse.
Yeah. Okay. 50.
And press enter and look what we have. We've got our dimensions right now, and this is a drawing or we're sketching, right? So say, for example, we accidentally uh, specified the wrong dimension. Well, just double click the dimension that you see. And just for fun, type in 40 mils. And look at this. It updates instantaneously. Great. So let's go back to 75. And to go back to 75, just go undo actually. And you can click
Oh,
on undo on the top or Control Z on your computer. But undo works just as fine. There we go. We're back to it. So this is the bird's eye view of our 1, 2, 3 block. It's almost like the top view of
hmm.
our drawing. And look at over here. What does our view cube say? It
Ah,
says top. There we go. So we've created the top view. Now we need to give it some height. So let's finish our sketch. And that's off to, we have two selections, finish there or finish sketch there, wherever you like to click.
okay.
And very good. Now it goes to an isometric view or an angled view. And now we need to give it some depth. So again, let's go back to create and click on your drop down. Which would you pick to create some depth?
Uh, well, I'm thinking it's either extrude or box.
You've got it. Extrude. Let's do it. So extrude is taking a 2D profile and creating some depth to it. Okay, so here we go. You can grab the arrow if you'd like, or you can put in a distance, whatever is easier. Now go the opposite way. You can see we're in a positive value right now and a negative value below. So yeah, let's do a positive value. Amazing. Okay, very good. So you can actually, there's a bunch of other options that we can select. Let's just go through our extrude menu over here, or our dialog box. Let's go to direction. Click on your direction. Right now it says one side. Yeah, look at what we've got. We can go to two sides. Let's click on two sides. Here, you can actually specify that one direction, the positive value is going to be 25 millimeters, and the opposite value, you can specify that as well. Why don't you just put in, I don't know, let's go 40 millimeters on side two. Oh, so you see there, we can actually create 25 millimeters up by 40 millimeters down. Great. Now, obviously, we've done the wrong thing. So we want to go back to our edit dialog window. And we can do that by right clicking on our timeline, the feature that we've just created, and go edit feature. You can also double click on it, but some find that really hard. Okay, so that's the two side direction. Now click on on the direction. Instead of two sides, let's go to the next item. And let's go symmetric. There we go. So this is saying we're going 25 millimeters up, 25 millimeters down. It's symmetric. But
Hmm.
look what we have here. Under measurement, we've got two options. Can you hover over the first one that's highlighted? This is the half length. So it's 25 on the half, 25 on the half. Just hover over the next one. Hey, there we go. So this is a whole length. Let's click on that.
Clicking on that.
The whole length one. Yeah. And now it's saying it's 25 millimeters total, but we're building it right off of our XY plane. So everything is equal up and everything
Hmm.
is equal down. So oftentimes this is what I use. I use the whole length and symmetric for the direction. And we'll get into the reasons why in the future. Yeah, let's click on that. And we can always adjust the distance right there. So if we wanted to, let's just keep it at 25. That sounds great.
Okay.
Okay, let's go okay. Then you have just created your first part using sketches. That's great. Amazing. Okay, so let's just talk about again how to quickly edit these things, and then I'm going to get you to lather, rinse, and repeat, and do the whole sketching and extruding one more time. So again, if we wanted to edit something that we've just created, do you remember how to do that? Let's edit our
Uh,
sketch.
do we go down here and right click?
You've got it. And so right now that would be editing the extrude, but we want to edit our sketch.
Okay, so
It's right beside
right.
where you just were, right beside, down at the bottom in our
Oh, down
timeline.
here.
Yeah, yeah. So remember, these are each of the tools that we've created. Our first one was our sketch, and the second one is our extrude. So if we want to edit the sketch, hover over that one. Yeah, that's right. Awesome.
Okay,
And edit sketch. Perfect. Okay, so it goes back to our bird's eye view. Let's create a box, a 1, 2, 3 blocks box, we might say, that is 20 mils by 40 by 60. And let's see if you can figure this out. 20 mil, 40 mil, 60 mil.
okay,
Very good so
okay,
far. Excellent.
okay. So now,
You've adjusted your sketch already. Great. So you can finish your sketch. Great. And now we just need to adjust the extrude operation. Amazing.
20.
Awesome. You've done it. Dan. So comparing the box create versus our creating a box using sketch, which one's easier, do you think?
Um, I'm not sure, but
Okay. No worries. But now you know how to do both of them. And of course,
yeah.
we'll explore that in the future. Like when is it that we use just those simple shapes and when is it that we sketch our shape? I think you can probably think of when we might need to sketch rather than using basic shapes.
Oh yeah, I
Very
could.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, so now, Dan, what we're going to do is you are going to click on your sketch in our timeline and you're going to hold down Control on your keyboard
Okay.
and click on your extrude tool right beside it, right beside the sketch. So click over here. You're going
Oh
to,
yeah. Okay.
yeah, and click on the extrude. Now you can just press delete on your keyboard
Forgive me. This is a
right above.
different keyboard that I'm used to.
Oh, no worries. Oh,
Because the other one,
you're on your laptop, right? Or you can always right
yeah.
click. You can always right click it and go delete.
Oh, here's delete. Oh, no.
No worries. Okay, then yeah, right click and delete is probably the easiest on your just and you're gonna just right above where you've clicked those two guys, right click.
Okay.
There you go. Right click and delete. Very good. Okay, so show us again, Dan. How would you create a sketch, sketch out your dimensions, and then extrude? Let's take it from the top.
Okay. Hang on a second here. Where's my sketch?
Yeah,
Create
you're right.
sketch.
You've got it. Perfect.
Okay. Okay. And I want to, hang on. Two-point rectangle.
Awesome.
Let's go 75. And
Okay, I'm glad you pressed enter. I'm glad you press enter. So if we press enter, it cancels
oh,
everything out And we can't add a second dimension. That's okay. Don't worry. This is
Should
great.
have pressed tab.
You should have pressed tab. No worries. No worries. So what we need to do is we need to add a dimension now to this over here. How do we do it? What do you think is the shortcut for dimension? What do you think it
Uh,
is, Dad? I'm going to give it to you. R is rectangle. What do you think dimension is for our shortcut?
D,
D,
D.
there you go. That's it. Press D.
So,
So you've actually selected that line already and then press D. So now
yeah,
move your mouse over here and you'll see that we can add a dimension to it. There we go. So just click your mouse and now we can add a dimension.
50 and
And
tab this time?
you can't actually press tab because it doesn't know to go over to our other dimension.
Oh, okay.
So now you have to press enter.
Okay.
That's it. Good job. You've got it. So let's go over to extrude. Now you finish your sketch. And you do that. There's two ways you can finish
Oh,
up here or finish down there. Yeah. Okay. And now
where's my extrude? Is it extrude?
you've got it.
Okay. And I want to go up. And I want this to be 25. Okay. And then okay.
Okay. Very, very, very good, Dan. What do you think? How do you feel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? Sometimes I just got to hover and think a little bit about what the next move is. I'm trying to remember all the sequence, but yeah, I think I can manage my way through it.
Awesome. And that's just it, is learning little by little. Hopefully I'm not going too fast. If I am, never feel afraid of saying, hey, slow it down there, Ty. But I think you're doing really well. So just before we finish here, um, look at the top and what do we see our part name? We see a V1 and then an asterisk beside it. Do you see that at the very top,
Yeah.
Dan?
Yeah.
So the asterisk means that it needs to be saved. It's unsaved. So just go up to the save icon.
Okay.
Awesome. And you can save it. And we can go OK. And look what happens. Our asterisk disappears at the top. And
Okay.
now we're in version 2. So we'll talk about versions in the future. But right now, yeah, you are done. You are finished for today. Actually, before we finish, just hover over your view cube
Okay.
and there's a little home up to the top left.
Yeah.
Click on that home and this will go to your home position.
Okay.
Very good. And if you want to orbit around your part, which we'll need to learn in the future, go back to your view cube. Remember, you can click on any surface and click and orbit. There you
Oh,
go. So you
cool.
can move it around and you can go back to your home position now, which is that isometric view. Very good. You can actually click on faces on your view cube. Click on the top face and see what happens. There we go. And
Oh,
see, as we click on the top face, you've got arrows now. You can rotate it clockwise or counterclockwise. So click on your right face there. Yeah. And you click, see those arrows to the top right? Oh, you'll have to click right on a face first of all, right face. There you go. And now those arrows will show up. These ones right. Oh, see those ones up here, Dan?
yeah.
Those
Oh,
will
these ones.
rotate it. Yeah, perfect. Clockwise, counterclockwise. Awesome. You can click
Uh-huh.
on corners, vertices, edges. Yeah, and it will take you to that particular orientation.
Wow, look at that.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay. Very, very, very good. So, and before we finish, just a couple more shortcuts. Again, before we finish, everyone, if you've liked this episode, if you appreciate it, if you've learned anything from it, please consider liking and subscribing. Share it to a friend that you think might benefit from this as well. Comment below anything you have benefited from, something that you appreciate about Dan's method, about my method, whatever you think. We would love to hear from you. So before we finish, Dan, one other thing, instead of always going up to your view cube on the top right, you can actually just hold down the middle mouse button of your mouse. I think your mouse has that feature.
It's
Just
got a
the middle.
wheel.
Yeah, press the wheel down and
Okay.
move your mouse now.
Ah,
Okay, so this is called panning, which is very handy. Now, do the exact same thing, but hold down Shift and then your middle mouse button.
shift. Okay.
And now you're in orbit mode. So instead of always going up to the view cube, you can either use your middle mouse button to pan or Shift middle mouse button to orbit. So there you go. Very good. Dan, round of applause. This is amazing.
Oh,
You
I've learned
did
a lot today.
You did an excellent, excellent job. So can't wait for day two, which again will be we'll have these individual days weekly. So next week, tune in again. We'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to consider helping us or giving us a coffee or becoming a member or anything like that, you'll see those in the description below. Links to Patreon. You can also become a YouTube member, which would be awesome. But can't wait to see you next week, Dan, and the rest of those that will be tuning in as well. Any questions before we wrap it up, Dan?
Nothing comes to mind at the moment,
Awesome.
but I'm
Well,
sure I'll have questions next week.
awesome. And if you do, write them down, and everyone else too at home, write down questions in the comments section. If you'd like to learn something or if something wasn't explained fully enough, please let us know. Don't be shy. We'd love to hear from you. All right. Until next time, Dan, thanks so much. Oh, and Dan, did you hear about the fire at the circus?
No?
No, it was intense.
Oh, groan.
Groaner. All right, all right. Okay, well, that's a good place to bail. Okay. All right, Dan. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone, and see you next week.